The legendary Super Saiyan versus the perfect being. This is honestly one of the most important versus battles that I've ever taken on in my entire career on YouTube. And the reason being for this is because the only reason I took it up was due to someone openly lying and using fake scans and then getting thousands upon thousands of views off of this topic. And it's funny enough because that fake scan was used to reinforce an argument that pretty much just holds up a misconception for way longer than it should have been held up. And honestly, I'm tired of it. So in this video, we'll be talking about Broly versus Cell. Regardless of anime or manga context, it doesn't matter because the result would not change. Let's get into it. Cell is Dr. Gero's greatest being, his ultimate being, created from the DNA and the traits of Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, King Cold, and Frieza, with only one goal in his mind: becoming perfect by absorbing Android 17 and 18, and then after that taking over the entire world with his perfection. Upon first introduction, he shows up in his imperfect state and already hypes up his perfect form by giving some levels of destructive capacity that he'd be able to achieve once he reaches his perfect form. Even Piccolo makes statements like it being able to wipe out all planets in the galaxy once it becomes perfect, which is kind of a lowball, but granted, he didn't know the full capacity of his powers, so fair point. There's even more statements made after Cell returns from absorbing the life force of cities worth of people, so I mean, there's definitely some indication of this being like a high-tiered being, with even Android 16 himself coming out and saying that Cell could literally wipe out the entire universe if he became perfect. And then finally in chapter 188 of Dragon Ball Z, Cell finally becomes perfect. Cell would then beat the holy fuck out of Vegeta, max out Super Saiyan Grade 3 Trunks, and then before both of these instances, he would also beat the shit out of Krillin, but that was a given. It's then after witnessing Super Saiyan Grade 3 Trunks' power, he witnesses how strong Saiyans could become just with days of training, and he decides to give them 9 days to acclimate and rise in power so they could fight him in his recreation of the World Martial Arts Tournament, the Cell Games. He then puts on an all-time performance against Master Super Saiyan Goku, and then Goku quits in that fight after admitting that he could not beat Cell at his full power, and then Gohan is introduced. And obviously you know how the rest folds out, with Super Saiyan 2 Gohan finally being unleashed. He beats the shit out of Perfect Cell. Perfect Cell then regresses into semi-perfect Cell, wants to self-destruct. Goku then intervenes, takes him to King Kai's planet. Cell then self-destructs. Cell then comes back to life via his own regenerative properties and also gets a Zenkai boost from his Saiyan DNA. He then uses instant transmission, which he copied off of Goku, and transports back to Earth and wreaks havoc once again. Post getting a Super Saiyan 2 style amp, Cell is once again called the strongest being, the most powerful being. With just a casual ki blast, Cell was able to completely damage and mangle the left side of Gohan's body, proving that he is completely stronger than what he was in the past. Super Perfect Cell also has even more scaling above Super Saiyan 2 Gohan via the Father-Son Kamehameha and how those events transpired. Cell was actively able to resist against the Father-Son Kamehameha, which is verbatim stated and quoted to be the strongest Kamehameha in history up until that point, which would essentially mean that the Father-Son Kamehameha is stronger than Super Saiyan 2 Gohan's full power. Yes, contrary to popular belief, the Father-Son Kamehameha is not Gohan's power alone. Instead, it's Gohan's power fueled by also a mental amp and also his encouragement by Goku to release his full power. Not only that, but Goku also gives power from the afterlife. And yet Cell could still actively fight against this power, and Goku and Gohan had to wait for Vegeta to create an opening as a means to catch Cell off guard to be able to beat him. So it's safe to say that manga-wise, Cell is the strongest character in the Cell saga. However, when it comes down to the anime, things get a little bit more dicey. Now let's get this very clear. There are a lot of people, including the person that I got this video idea from, who will openly lie to you and manipulate you and make it seem like the Dragon Ball Z movies do not take place in the anime timeline. However, this is not true. A simple way to prove this argument, like I did before, is just go ahead and showcase that Garlic Jr. literally appears in the anime, and it's the same Garlic Jr. as the one from the movies, based on the exact same events and all. More importantly, it's confirmed by Koyama and Toriyama that all the movies take place in one timeline, meaning if one is canon, the others will have to be canon by proxy. Now, lots of people will love to use this scan, or even this scan from Tako Koyama's Twitter, apparently, trying to get across the idea that this movie was written with a different intention or a different foundation in comparison to the anime series. However, this is again not the case. I'll address the Gohan scan later on down the line when I'm talking about the Broly movies and things like that, but for right now, we're talking about Cell and how that pertains to the anime series. And when it comes down to the Koyama statements, this Twitter never housed this tweet. This tweet was never published or posted by anybody. Tako Koyama had never said this before. So once again, this is just another bold-faced lie being dangled in front of you by a Dragon Ball YouTuber to get you to believe something that really isn't the case. Koyama never says he wrote Dragon Ball Z Movie 10 Broly the Second Coming to refer back to a Gohan that was training in those 7 years. The movies are meant to fit in for the anime timeline to basically extend the runtime and the series when the manga is way too close to its development. These things are made to be canon sequels and canon side stories inside the Dragon Ball Z story. Now let's talk about Cell again and get back to how he scales in the anime continuity. In the anime continuity, the statements of him being able to wipe out the universe are way more frequent than in the manga, leading to a higher consistency of this being Cell's max power in the anime continuity. Cell is a universal buster, especially by his super perfect variant. Now obviously the big anti-feat that people love to cling to when it comes down to it is Cell making the statement that he has enough energy to wipe out the entire solar system when he's charging up his solar Kamehameha. However, that being Cell's max power output is openly not the case. This is nothing more than a reflection of Cell's AoE post having the attack hit and destroy Gohan and then spill out as a remainder of energy to the rest of the entire solar system. Combine that with the fact, like I mentioned before, Cell has multiple statements of being able to wipe out the entire universe. It's pretty much consistent that Cell is a universe buster and not just a solar system, which is insanely impressive. But let's get to Broly. Broly's story starts off shortly before planet Vegeta's destruction and shortly before Goku is sent off to planet Earth. Broly, son of Paragus, was born with an insanely high power level of 10,000 just as a baby. In that scope, he was already as strong as the king and was way stronger than the king's son, and that openly put fear in the king's heart. That fear would then make King Vegeta enlist his henchmen to go into Broly's sleeping pod and attempt to assassinate him. Paragus catches wind of this and tries to plead his case for Broly to make it seem like Broly would be a great asset for King Vegeta and the prince. But King Vegeta wants to hear none of this and steps down from his throne, hitting Paragus with a ki blast directly to the chest, severely wounding him. Both Broly and Paragus were then discarded into random wasteland areas of planet Vegeta, and post Vegeta being destroyed, Broly would then use his aggressive power as a means to create a shield over him and his father, saving both of their lives. This was the first glance that Paragus would have at Broly's legendary power, and it would only get worse as Broly got older and stronger. Now see, Broly, even as a kid, had two sides of himself. The first would be a very docile and shy individual, but upon being angered, a flip switches. And when that happens, Broly becomes a completely different person, now driven on pure death, destruction, insanely maniacal tendencies. And this also works in tandem with another attribute of Broly as a character. See, when it comes to Z Broly is a prime example of Saiyan traits being turned up to 11 in an individual. Broly adapts faster than any Saiyan, he grows at a higher rate, and more importantly, he is the Saiyan of legend. Even as a kid, Paragus cannot take Broly's power lightly because with his anger, his power grew as well. And this is proven even as a kid with Broly going on multiple rampages, destroying cityscapes at a time and making sure they cannot be rebuilt. All this would be mitigated somewhat when Paragus would then crown Broly with new jewelry, literally being a crown, a necklace, and some arm gauntlets that would be able to help Broly control his power whenever Paragus would press the button. It would keep Broly under control and it would keep him in his sane self, being able to still be calm and be able to be neutral. However, Broly's legendary Saiyan power was still boiling red hot underneath him. He would still go into fits of rage and release his power at certain times only to be controlled by Paragus even as an adult. However, as Broly got older and more powerful, Paragus would then have less and less control because of the time passing. The device could not maintain that much power and it could not keep that much power at bay. So the amount of power that Broly was gaining was outweighing the amount of power the restraining device could hold. And this wouldn't be more apparent until Broly would become a Super Saiyan as an adult, thus literally eradicating all of South Galaxy by just powering up. Now, funny enough, a lot of people love to speculate and say that Broly didn't actually destroy South Galaxy because the movie takes place in South Galaxy, which is true. However, he does significantly affect it as shown in the movie itself. He just leaves remnants and bits and pieces there that are literally able to be explored and checked out by Goku in the movie. So again, he still technically did destroy it. As I mentioned before, this is called Super Saiyan A-type, and this is the form that Broly takes on for a majority of the film, up until he releases his legendary power. When Broly assumes his legendary state, his power rises by insane degrees, and this is openly shown by him not only being able to withstand multiple attacks from every Z fighter, even combined attacks, which is confirmed to make you more powerful, but when it comes down to it, this Broly was shitting on everybody, literally everybody. No one was safe. making nothing but examples out of Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Trunks, and Piccolo, making them look like nothing more than cannon fodder. Broly would proceed to rampage on the fake planet Vegeta, and as this would go on, not only is he shitting on the Z Fighters, but he also takes a little bit of time to fuck over a planet that was just distant off in the area as a means of being petty, and then he kills his fucking dad. So, yeah. He was definitely busy. Broly's a fucking tank, and this is openly proven by two things. One, stated that he is actively rising in power and continuously grows throughout the entirety of the movie post transforming into the legendary Super Saiyan. And two, it's actually a little bit more concrete than what I said before. Broly is verbatim stated to have infinite power upon being transformed into the legendary Super Saiyan state. So all in all, who will be the winner of this fight? Honestly, I think it's Broly. Now trust me, I know there are multiple statements of Cell having power that is unfathomable or power that is pretty much like beyond imagination or can't even be fathomed up by certain people. However, most of those statements are in reference to people who have never even felt Broly's energy before, so it would make no sense for that to carry over. Popo and Dende have never felt like Broly's energy. And yeah, Piccolo mentioned something about Cell's energy, but he never puts it in a way that's above Broly, so I don't really think that's like a fair estimate. And when it comes down to it, Cell's statement about being able to destroy the universe seems more of like a ravaging type thing where he's going throughout the universe and destroying celestial bodies as he comes across them. But yeah, Broly wins for a majority of reasons. Again, he's stated to have infinite power, be able to wipe out the universe. He's stated to be able to continuously grow in power effortlessly and doesn't stop. Not to mention the amp that Goku receives in movie 8 to be able to beat Broly is stated to be a 1000 times amp to his courage, which amplifies his ki by 1000 times. That is a level of power that is completely unheard of even after Super Saiyan 3 is unleashed. So when it comes down to it, this is a power level that Broly had to contest and go up against actively. This is a power level higher than even Super Perfect Cell by himself. So again, this is openly proven that Broly is stronger than Super Perfect Cell. And yes, I'm not accounting for movie 10 Broly. The reason being for that is because it's pretty much borderline confirmed that he's stronger than Cell by this point. It wouldn't be a good fight. Like, there are open statements of these characters being the strongest opponents up until that point that the Z Fighters have ever faced. Broly in movie 10 would then be surpassing that benchmark of Super Perfect Cell. So yeah, all in all, I got Broly.